Hello, and welcome to a brand new live stream, live session 10. We are okay. We'll first, of course, new day, new topic. But same old co-host. Please wave at your screens and welcome Lauren K. Nixon. I did that announcer voice.
Hello.
Hey!
I like your announcer voice. It's good.
Yeah.
Makes me feel like a sports star in America.
Yeah, that I was aiming for that. Lauren Koenigson. And yeah, today we are recording the seventh episode of our new podcast, which hasn't is the word
Yeah,
debuted
debuted.
debuted. Okay, the T is silent. uh so I mean, when it eventually gets published, we'll be sharing it on our social medias and stuff.
Mhm.
But up until then, it'll be there. I mean, you can catch it live on Twitch and later in the day on YouTube. But today, are you stitching? Are you
Mm.
drawing? Okay, it's the same.
I
Continuing.
did most of the tree yesterday, so I'm continuing with the tree.
Oh, that's a T. Okay. Oh, that's your
Mm.
plan or the
The map.
intended. Oh, the map. Okay. I was
Well, I
trying
call
to.
it the map. I don't know what it's actually called.
Huh.
The plan, the design,
Okay.
the
Our chat already has a first comment from
yay.
some bot because we have zero viewers.
All right.
Uh, the bot says, "Wanna become famous? Buy followers and views on HTTPS. Click.ru." I'm like,
I'm good
yeah, I'm
actually.
good. Thank you. We
Yeah,
don't need followers and viewers. Or at
that's
least
what I'm
I don't
doing.
think I'll be able to. Oh wow.
That's the name of the artist who made the pattern.
Tiny
But yeah,
Modernist.
yes,
Shout out to Tiny
very
Modernist.
cool.
That's a
Available on
it's
Etsy.
it's a pretty. It reminded me of the Weasley's Burrow for some reason, but anyway,
Mm.
I always keep. I should stop with my Harry Potter references,
It's your frame of
but
reference. It's cool.
it's the only thing I have to borrow from. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'll keep doing that until I have more, or I widen my uh
Mhm.
what's complete my sentence, please.
Uh, uh, literary background.
Thank you. Yeah, what Lauren said. Um, so today I don't have. I mean, it's the same old uh, green apple energy drink and same old. So let's directly. We are.
I have apple ties as well today, so
Uh-huh.
it's a fizzy apple.
Out of a cup.
Mm.
That's a little. I mean, okay, it's a warm
I
drink.
have. No, it's cold. I have teacups, and sometimes I'm like, I don't fancy a glass, or as in today, I didn't do the washing up, and there are no glasses. So.
Okay, that's fair enough. But usually, does it happen with you? For in my head, I'm like, warm drinks are are in that cup, go in the bowl or a cup, and cold drinks needs to be these slender shaped glasses. That's the prejudice I have. I'm kind
I'd
of
say I'm a bit chaotic, so
yeah,
although
of course, yeah,
I have
that makes
cups
sense.
specifically for tea and stuff, I tend to use them for other things.
Hmm.
When I have a drink, like if I make myself a gin cocktail, I'll probably use a teacup because they're fun.
Is it because of the physics? As in,
Yeah,
you increase the surface area so that it cools and you are able to
yeah,
sip or eat out of a spoon faster, and for colder drinks it's fine, it doesn't matter,
yeah.
and as long as it fits in your hand and you're able to sip from it.
Well, I
Oh,
think
that's
the
cool,
shape
right?
of the glass also changes the taste a little bit,
It does? I didn't know that.
or particularly if you've got something with bubbles in, which is why champagne is served in flutes or the
Those slender,
shallow
yeah.
ones.
Oh, the shallow ones, okay.
Yeah,
Really?
and that's why brandy, because brandy as in the sort of domey ones, because it evaporates, and then you get this sort of, you're not just drinking the drink, you're drinking the air, and you get the smell, and smell affects taste. So
Wow, didn't know that.
there's another random fact that
Yeah,
is
there's
completely useless to me.
science in everything, man.
Yeah.
It's always fun to know about stuff. Uh, so yeah, we'll start with Lauren inaugurating the with the title. So today's author we are covering Robert A. Heinlein. No announcer voice for him though, unfortunately. Robert A. Heinlein. Uh, and
And freedom.
interesting choice of word, but we'll come to that soon. Okay. Robert A. Heinlein and freedom. Uh, are there any starting thoughts, or just let's just start like always with the chronology and just start right straight away?
He's one. He's one of the big three.
Yeah,
and he's
you said that yesterday.
an author I've heard like loads of stuff from. And again, when I was looking him up this morning, I realised that I knew loads of the stuff that he'd done and just didn't realise it, which is ridiculous, you know, considering who he is and what he wrote and what it affected. But yeah. So I spent the morning going, oh no, I do know who he is. All right.
Yeah. So Robert Heinlein, born 1907 in Missouri, USA, and he was the actual. I mean, I know yesterday I sort of called Jules Verne a late bloomer, but I guess Heinlein was the actual late bloomer, I would say, because, or I mean, this is just my opinion, or what because he started his career by entering an amateur science fiction writing contest. He came across an advertisement in 1939 at the age of 32, and he was short of money, doing odd jobs and stuff, and he was like, okay, and this sort of he came across this newspaper ad, and he was like, okay, let me write a story, and that's how his writing career began.
Yeah.
Is my voice clear?
You're able yes
to... Okay,
it's mine.
Yeah.
Oh, I should apologize, I've got a bit of a sniffle today because I've been moving stuff around the house, so I'll probably start sneezing at some point and not be able to stop. So
okay.
Apologies in advance for that.
Dust allergies?
Just not really, but we haven't really moved stuff around that much, so I think it's just there. It's less of an allergy, it's more of it's present. So
yeah, got it. So before, I mean, like again, all these tags that we have discussed with our previous authors in the days, in the last few days. So the tag for Robert Heinlein I came across was father of modern social science fiction. First I heard of a term like that. So what qualifies as social science fiction?
Well, so far we've mostly been looking at science fiction in terms of technological advances. And social science fiction is more how we advance as a species and as a society. So there may be technological advances, but how do they affect how we treat each other and how we see ourselves? So that's more that. It's more systems or people systems rather than technical systems.
So you're saying instead of there's more talk of society or how people live in the future, or as compared to technology, as the other authors we have covered so far.
It's not robots go mad or AI evolves or it's more, well, technology will continue to advance, but how do
How will
we
we cope with it?
cope with it? Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
cope with
got it.
ourselves.
Okay. So, so do you think the other one, that the other claim that he reinvented science fiction, is that justified, or?
To an extent, yes, because people weren't writing about it in that way.
Mhm.
He started making people think, oh, well, I mean, most of the things that we watch, that I grew up watching Star Trek and Stargate and Babylon 5, Battlestar Galactica, and they have roots in both the social and the technical science fiction. But I suppose he's one of the first people that made people go, so we can ask the big questions about humans as well. Not humans in the context of robots, but humans in the context of other humans.
Okay.
There's I can't remember what the story is, and I can't remember who wrote it, but I have a line in my head from it. It's there's alien refugees trying to take up residence on Earth, and there's a group for them staying. There's a group against them staying. They don't seem to be a threat, but they have nowhere else to go, and the world councils of whatever are trying to decide, and the person standing up for them says, yeah, but the thing is, they're not the threat to us. We're the threat to us.
Yeah.
And, we have no evidence that they're a threat, but we have lots of evidence that we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That wise guy. Okay, so before we start with his works one by one, I wanted to give a shout out to John W. Campbell. I felt like this is a name that I have been hearing. I have heard for the third time today. I came across, and I was like, I seriously need to look up this guy, because I saw this name come up when I was reading about Arthur
C.
Clarke. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. And Isaac Asimov as well. And so I took the time out to read about John W. Campbell, and it says about him that he was the editor of Astounding Science Fiction
Yes.
from 1937 up until his death, and he has been credited with shaping the careers of virtually. I'm just reading the direct quote right now. Shaping the careers of virtually every important science fiction author between 1938 and 1946. That includes Robert Heinlein, Isaac Asimov, Arthur C. Clarke, and Theodore Sturgeon. Three of those we have covered, and one of them we are covering right now. So I think this guy, I mean, it deserves to be,
Yeah. He was the
look.
gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because yesterday I think I read about how much of an influence. Not yesterday. I mean, yesterday was Jules Verne, of course. Isaac Asimov, day before. Uh, of how much John Campbell was like a father figure in his
Yeah.
early in his career, like as a because he was the editor, right? And
Yeah.
all of their stories went through him, and so I was like, this is also a name that I had never I didn't know upfront, because he, of course, I'm sure he is a big name in the world of science fiction.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's about it. That's all I wanted to say. But
Yeah.
And also I think in the Encyclopedia of Science Fiction also, it says about him that more than any other individual, John Campbell has helped shape modern science fiction,
Yeah.
being the editor. And so, is it like, I mean, how much of a role do you think the editor plays? Because you
Oh,
also
tremendous.
have experience of being the editor for other people's works and stuff.
Well, not in some ways, in not in terms of being in charge of what gets published. Well, I suppose in the anthologies, but the main difference is my anthologies, the Superstars anthologies, are brilliant, but they don't have the same reach. So he was in a unique position where he got to shape generations of scientific thought by influencing them through fiction. I immediately, you said it, and I don't know why it came into my head, but possibly because this is a thing that comes up frequently at the moment, is I wonder how many female authors he turned down.
Yeah, because at the time there was this prejudice and all that.
And how many stories about people who weren't white and things like that. And and it's a hard thing to ask because you don't know. And you, as a magazine editor, you have to do what sells and not what will get you prosecuted. But I don't know why that came into my head just then. But
that's true. I mean, now that you mentioned that, do you think that played? I mean, I think we have covered this topic in private group chats and stuff in the past as well, but not on stream or in a podcast episode. We have talked about why or how female authors in the past used to assume or take the pseudonyms which sounded like a male, or even Mary Shelley, who chose not to reveal her identity, and just he published her for Frankenstein without the author name of the author initially. So is it because of this, like what you said, editors turning them down and
well, to a certain extent,
that's
Mary Shelley was also, she lived in a time where there would be public recriminations for a woman saying things that men said. And also possibly to the point where she would be attacked in private and in person. I mean, physically attacked. And that is still true. There are still people who think that it is appropriate to send death threats to someone if they dislike who they are, and follow up on them. But I know
happens even more today with social media and stuff, because everything's out there.
And there's an inbox, so you can anyway. Authors like George Eliot and Edith Pargeter even, who wrote as Ellis Peters, wrote the Cadfael books. It's a lot easier. It's still a lot easier to get published if you are male or you seem non-gendered in your application. In 2016, there was a study, an accidental study. There was a male author, actually, because a female author's done this. People periodically, a female author will do this and go, guys, can we stop doing this? But a male author did this, the thing that we do occasionally, which is you apply with the same manuscript, the same cover letter, because when you're trying to get published, you have a bunch of documents. You have your synopsis, which tells people the entire plot in one page. With very specific formatting rules that are different for every publishing house, which is in no way irritating. You have your cover letter, which tells you a bit about the author, a bit about the story, why they think it's worth promoting, and your first 50 pages.
Oh, okay.
So
it's very similar to a job application, right? Instead of the first, you usually attach a resume, so the resume is CV.
Some of them ask for a CV as well.
The CV as well. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was able to say the CV is replaced by that first 50 pages. But okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the experiment goes like this: you apply with the same synopsis, the same first 50 pages, a marginally different, exactly the same cover letter, except you change your name.
Yeah.
And you apply, say it's me, you go Lawrence K. Nixon or L.K. Nixon and then Lauren K. Nixon. So you use specific the two specific binary genders,
Yeah.
and you use a neutral initial. And every single damn time someone does this experiment, and again in 2016 when it was I think he blogged it and it exploded. I can't remember his name, but every single time I think he sent out, I'm not good at percentages, but that basically a very low proportion, if any, of the female author name get through with the same story to the same publishing houses.
Wow.
The middle one with the initial about half, and then the male one is above average. And that's, it's not fair, but it's also not fair to male writers, because it means that they feel they can't get through as well on their own merits. But yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah, it's sad how much discrimination has.
I mean, it may not even be conscious. It may just be because.
I mean that's up to us, right? I mean the onus is on us to recognize or identify the prejudice, or if at all within us, and to solve because I everybody usually at some level is guilty of it, to an extent. I have been as well, and then it's a continuous
it's a conversation
learning curve.
Yeah, you have to keep having the conversation with yourself.
Yeah. So in the case of transphobia, or Islamophobia and stuff, it's everywhere in different societies to different varying degrees, and skin color, race, gender, all that. But it's sad when you think of how much creativity gets lost because of this unwarranted kind of race to get picked, and then something that is undeserving. It's unfair, because it's not, like you said, on merit. It's not on merit.
Well, it's also, you got to remember, the publishing world works on sales and marketing. So part of the reason that there was this conscious or unconscious bias against female authors in particular areas was because people wouldn't buy them. Oh, it's a girl's name, I'm not going to read it.
Oh, okay. Or, so it's not just about editors or publishers. There's this. Okay. So it's it's everywhere.
Yeah. Well, it's also the assumptions they're making, or the buying trends that they're seeing. Well, she can't possibly understand this. She's a girl, or she's got a name that doesn't sound like she's from here, or or he,
women shouldn't write science fiction, should stick to children's stories or something like that.
Yeah. Why is this guy with an Eastern sounding name writing a story about Hackney? Because he lives there. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I'm sure it happens in academia as well, to an extent.
Definitely.
Definitely. When you like, I think there was another with you just said about Eastern sounding names. There was one with one kind of research with Muslim sounding names as well, with research papers and research applications for research positions in academia. And so it's like, if you have a name like Abdul or Mohammed, and then you just don't get considered. They don't even look at your the rest of the CV.
And if you're talking about unconscious bias, I read this recently. I can't remember when it was, but I think it was in the middle of the 20th century. There was a big drive towards allowing more women to be a part of the big orchestras around the world. And I can't remember which one. I think it might have been the New York Symphonic. And they had this drive. So what they did was they listened to auditions blind. So they put up these screens. And they found that they were still hiring almost exclusively males, and some of the people were like, well, then obviously clearly they're better. And then someone else said, all right, well, let's do it again, and let's have all of them take their shoes off before they come in. and suddenly it was just merit. And the reason was because they could hear a woman's high heels, and even though they hadn't recognized that that's what they were hearing, it triggered their subconscious prejudice. So but they had the same people audition in each of the tests, so they could go each time and say, was this merit or was this not? So it's fascinating, isn't it? Human mind.
It is. Like
even when they were trying really hard not to.
But I like that. I mean, I am more of the optimistic kind of person. So I have my bad days as well, but on most days I am happy with where we are going. I mean, at least the majority of our species, I feel like, is constantly moving in the right direction that you should. I mean,
I no longer feel like that, but I think that's because of where I live.
No, I mean,
it's hard
if you're basing your opinion on your social media feed, then I feel like that's kind of
more
unfair.
The general news, political decisions.
Because most people do that because social media, it's not fair anymore because
it's
of all
hugely
the
distorting.
The algorithm. Because you're constantly only surrounding yourself with like-minded people, and then it's no longer fair. Because we have reached that point where if somebody has a differing opinion, we either mute them, block them, or unfriend them, or whatever the term is. And so that positive reinforcement, again happens again and again, and then
or negative reinforcement,
or that depends on what posts you're coming across. So social media, I feel, but otherwise, I mean, see, like in terms of women's rights and just based on just the last 100 years, how far we've come. In the last,
I would largely agree with you, but in the last month, the number of things that have been brought in that are appalling in what we will loosely term civilized countries, insofar as anywhere isn't really uncivilized, it's just astounding. I mean, was it this week where
it's like that 2 steps forward, 1 step back, right?
Well, but at the moment we're not having any steps forward, we're just having steps back. I mean, there's a state now that has made it legal for you to refuse treatment to a child if you believe them to be trans. If you believe them to be trans, like let's look at that. You are allowed to refuse medical treatment to a child. I don't give a shit what gender that child is. It's a child. And that's okay, and that's totally fine. And I'm like, no. So
why is there even a legislation like?
Because people are scared of other. And currently, the other that is being touted as evil is trans. A few years ago, it was Muslims. A few years before that, in England, it was the Irish. A few years ago, before that, in America, it was the Chinese. We've got more instances of Asian-related hate. It's literally whoever the media can pin it on at this particular time. We need to blame someone. As a species, this is how we function, is we have someone we can blame for stuff that is happening, and that's currently who it is. And it's very, from a historian's point of view, an archaeologist's point of view, it is not only hilariously pathetic that we have not noticed or done something about it, but also extremely annoying. It makes you feel very helpless because we know we do it. There's enough of us that know we do it that means that we should change it, but there's enough people who refuse to believe that or just don't understand it. You just sit there and go, what? So there's no point looking on social media or engaging,
because those who do not understand are also inside there, like the bubble that we talked about, right? Of that positive reinforcement bubble.
If we leave our bubbles, they've been told that we are unwilling to listen to them and their point of view. And the reason I'm unwilling to listen to their point of view is, and I use the terminology defiantly, they are insane.
I
that's
get
the
what you
problem,
mean.
because
Yeah.
I mean, I could sit down. I've got extremely intelligent friends who I agree with on every other point,
Yeah.
and they will tell me that all trans women are not only not women, don't deserve the same rights as us, but are secretly evil. All of them. And I'm like, but how can you say that, but also at the same time say, we should be working on supporting rights for this, or how is that different? And they're like, oh, it's completely different. I'm like, but it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same. And I can't. There is a point beyond which you can't communicate.
Yeah.
With someone who has made their minds up so entirely.
It's strange that they, in going against a certain section. I mean, in their attempt to go against a certain section of society, they go to that extent of ignoring basic human rights.
Yes. Well, they do it because someone is labeled enemy. You are.
But they're still human, right? It's still human. Yeah. The human rights that there is. Yeah.
No, you're right. But there is this interaction where you are socially no longer required to treat them as a person, and that's human nature, and that's But we've got to. That's what Robert Heinlein was writing about. Was each time we do something new, we have to ask ourselves that question.
But
if I consider this person a person, do I do it?
Yeah.
And the answer for too many people is yes, because I will suffer no recriminations because everyone agrees with me, or yes, because I have absolute right to this person's body because they are inferior to me in some way because somebody has told me so, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, going building on that segue for back to Robert Heinlein. He was also, is it not also, I guess he's the first controversial author that we've come across so far in our series.
I'd say the others wrote things that are controversial, but he wrote controversially.
Yeah.
If that
because his critics have accused him of being a right-wing warmonger as well, because some of his works were so he also his fans think of him as the quintessential or the true patriot, while his critics, like I said, thought that he who he in the quest of this patriotism, he was very black and white, as in USA needs to be protected and the enemy has to be destroyed.
Yes.
So they kind of criticized his warmongering kind of speech, or at least his writing. So what is that? I mean, do you have?
I think to an extent that's fair. His later stuff.
His later stuff,
yeah.
Yeah,
his later stuff moved away from that, but he is. We are all a product of our time, and
yeah. So like yesterday we discussed with Herge. Is it similar to that? Was his writing influenced by the Cold War, or
100%? And okay. I can't imagine this last year. I've always wondered what it would be like to live with that constant dread of not knowing whether you'd be wiped out in the next second. But this last year, I completely understand Cold War paranoia. I get it. But yeah, he was raised to believe the military were, the be-all and end-all, and he had great success in the military. He considered it himself this upright military man, and it took him a while to start to question that.
Yeah.
But he did. And yes. I think one of the things you have to remember is that people aren't the same person their entire life.
Yeah. This also I think we talked about yesterday, the evolution through the career. Yeah.
Yeah, and just because somebody has those opinions when they're writing a particular book doesn't mean that the book has less value. So long as that's not what they're trying to convince you to do.
Yeah.
If they're not trying to manipulate you with it,
Yeah.
and it's not like let's kill all children or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a book, it's fiction.
It is.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. After all, even
If you don't
science
like it,
fiction
don't
is
read it.
fiction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't read it if you don't want.
Yeah.
It's your choice.
Yes. So, yeah, let's start going through his works now, and the
Hmm.
prophecies, or that since that is of that, like, that is the basis of our series,
Yes.
current series. Yeah, so he started with the from by looking at that, from that, that's how his career started. Like, I mean, we talked about, he saw the ad, and then he eventually he met John Campbell, and
Hmm.
that's how his science fiction writing career began.
Yes.
So first big break, 1951, the Puppet Masters.
Hmm.
And the technology that he wrote about in this was an alien life force able to control or use the human body as a puppet, basically,
Hmm.
essentially. um, and
Evil slugs. Yeah.
yeah, yes, that's the term they use. Was that the language wrote, I mean, the term he used, or was it
Yeah.
the episode? Okay. Okay.
No, they description and terminology, they were clearly a form of large slug
Yeah.
that
Okay.
needed bodies, and
Hmm.
that's why they had developed these abilities to control minds.
Yeah.
Because, like, why bother evolving into having extremities when you can just take somebody else's? I guess.
Yeah. uh so yeah, and the science that has developed from it is, they I think they said, I mean, this is something related to the health industry, so I'm not
Mm.
very well versed with it. I think which they I think they talked about brain mapping, if I'm not
Yeah.
wrong. Using brain mapping, you kind of, the at least the medical community has figured out which areas of the brain lights up, or when you are thinking, or you are creating, or you are solving a puzzle, or the speech area of the brain, or basically they have kind of mapped uh,
Hmm.
where what happens in the brain, with whatever technology that we have developed so far.
Hmm.
And I think, the in relation to the puppet masters, or whatever the story was, uh, the technology is, by using an external electrical impulse, you
Yeah.
kind of target the decision making part of the brain at exactly the right moment when you are about to make the decision. So your
Hmm.
kind of, your moral compass
Mm.
kind of goes
The
haywire for a bit.
quality of your ethics changes, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just at that moment when you're making that decision, it kind of
Yeah.
goes a little off, that. And then, typically the kind of decision that you would make, you end up m- not doing, or making
Yeah.
that decision, or making the opposite decision.
Yeah.
um so, like, do you think that, I mean, i- is that technology even ethical in the first place? uh
I suppose if you've thought of it, someone else has thought of it, and if you're going to live in a world where it exists, you should at least know that it's possible and to what extent it's possible.
no, I meant,
Um,
where would that be useful to us?
well, that's what I mean. In military situations, in interrogation,
Interrogations, okay. Because
in targeted
I can think of
attacks.
more misuses than uses for this type of technology.
Yeah.
So this is something I don't think I want to see become a reality.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with it not. The idea of someone being able to make me do something against
Yeah.
my meanness, you
Yeah,
know.
gives a whole
I
new meaning to the
Yeah.
term thinking cap, right? If it becomes a
Yeah.
reality, you just wear that cap, and then
Yeah.
it makes your decisions for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want that happening.
Any mind control in any story immediately puts me off it because I hate it.
Yeah,
That moment where you wake up and you realize what you've done.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So is over drinking the night before also like some sort of a mind control thing where the next day you wake up
Well,
and you look at your
you
call
are.
log and the number of calls you made to your ex, and then like, what did I do?
You are altering your brain chemistry. So yes,
Yeah,
you
that's
self-induced,
true. That's true. Yeah.
self-induced mind alteration.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So you're letting something else control your decision making or for you. And
yeah.
wow.
Well, it removes your inhibitions and it shifts your ethics. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. That's so amazing. I did not think of it, and now I just said it, and now
sugar,
that's
sugar
true.
is the same.
Yeah.
To I mean different extents, but yeah,
Hmm. Yeah. And also, I think, yeah, it's the same, right? Sugar, caffeine,
yeah,
because people kind of, yeah, drink it to make them feel more energetic. Sometimes when people just before going on stage and stuff like that, when
yeah.
you're to calm your nerves, and
Well, that's the
that's
thing about
literally, oh
caffeine
yeah,
as
calm your
well.
nerves. That's yeah, the
Well, at
phrase.
least say in cigarettes, nicotine.
Nicotine as
You know,
well. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. True.
But the thing about caffeine that always amuses me, as a tea drinker, is the you don't actually get a buzz from it the
I'm
first
drinking
time.
caffeine right now, so
Yeah, it what it actually does is depress your. It acts as a sedative, so you get the you get the buzz the next time you drink it. So you're
Hmm.
permanently working on a deficit.
Yeah. So it's like
So
it gives you a high, but then there's a immediate fall after. Is that what you're trying to?
no, you
No.
don't
Okay.
get the high the first time. You get the low the next day, and then you drink the caffeine and you feel all right. So it if you start drinking really strong coffee if you're on holiday,
Hmm.
the first couple of days you're like, oh yeah, it's just stronger coffee, isn't it? And then by the third day, the need for it is increased because you're having more of a dip because it creates the dip.
Oh, this is basically addiction, right?
Hmm,
What you're talking. Oh, I see.
entirely,
I
yeah.
see. I see. Oh, now are you telling me I've become addicted to energy drinks?
Uh, I mean potentially.
Maybe. Yeah. Is that
But I
why
mean,
every day I feel the need to have an energy drink before doing something that
mm,
requires me to
morning
display some
coffee, morning tea.
energy? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Sugar again.
Sad face.
I know that's what I'm more addicted to is sugar than anything else, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Mina says Ramadan is the reason why she won't be joining us.
Ah, fair enough.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Fine. Okay. So that it's scary. Coming back to the brain mapping and the decision making influencing technology.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. But the next novel that he wrote, or at least no, of course he wrote many novels, but the next novel that we will be talking about is the 1957 The Door into Summer.
Mm.
And in this one he talked about cold sleep, and in his words, cold sleep and hibernation,
Hmm.
which the resulting technology that humans developed is cryogenics, or at least are in the process of making it a reality, or whatever
Yeah.
that is. uh, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I think we discussed, I mean, we did not say use the term cryogenics, but we talked about
Yeah. We talked about it the other
freezing
day
bodies,
briefly.
yeah, as a form of time travel, in which you're like, you freeze your body and then you come
You
alive
come
at a
back.
later
Yeah.
date. uh,
There was an Edgar Allan Poe short story I think I was referencing when we were talking about that.
I
Yeah.
see. What's
Um.
it about? Same, just
Um.
freezing and
It's
stuff.
yeah, but not freezing so much as embalming. It's a, a race of people who became the Egyptian mummies, but they're actually way older than we think they are.
Uh-huh.
And they just, if
Oh
they
yeah,
want to
yeah,
see
yeah.
what the
Now
future's
I
like, they
remember.
just embalm themselves and turn up
Hmm.
again.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice to make. I know in the novel they set it up where the worst has happened.
Yeah.
The guy can't face it, but you'd have to leave everything behind. It's such an extraordinary choice. Yeah, I mean, I get why you'd cry. There's a lot of science fiction stories where people cryogenically freeze themselves if they have a terminal disease, or they have a diagnosis where they can't be healed, or their loved ones do. Like, say there's one of them has a heart attack and they can't be roused, so they cryogenically freeze them, and so that they can be saved later on when technology is improved. But
that
we're not there yet.
Yeah, I mean, freezing is still okay, but people forget that there's another thing involved: bringing someone back from the dead. Just curing a disease is okay, but at the end, you still have to make them alive again, and that's reaching the levels of Frankenstein.
Yeah, I mean, also because I have a rudimentary knowledge of forensics, that one of your major problems is the degradation of the body over time, not just the degradation of the body. How do you preserve the mind? Because what is the mind? It's electrical stimulation. But it's you responding to the world. If you stop responding to the world, do you lose yourself?
Yeah.
Even if we ignore the whole, if you are frozen, even cryogenically, your cells will liquefy. Yeah.
I think it's not just the mind, right? Even our senses as well lose their. I think I read about. I mean, I don't know if it's scientifically proven but I read about how if you cover your eye for a year, there's a chance that when you finally uncover it and your cones and whatever the senses at the back of your retina may not function because it has lost its ability because it wasn't used for an extended period of time. So freezing, I see what you mean. But so what are your thoughts on that? I mean, at the end, do you see it becoming a reality in our lifetime, or I mean, just like
No.
The thinking cap that we talked about?
I think it's more likely not to, because as I think we got really excited about it in the 20th century, and the more we looked into it, the less likely it turned out it would be, and loads of people invested in it. And then of course
there those two things that where started, the other one that we discussed was regeneration, regenerating cells to extend our lifespan.
I think that's more likely.
That's yeah. I was about to say that as well.
But I mean, what do I know? I have 2 degrees in archaeology and I read a lot of science. That doesn't make me an expert by any means.
I'm an engineer, so I have nothing to do with bio, or the medical sciences. So just speculating. Okay. So let's move on to the next one. This is 19. So that's 2 years later. I think the one that you mentioned yesterday, Starship Troopers. Yeah, 1959. And the technology in this one was, correct me if I'm wrong, is the Heinlein suit, or the exoskeleton. My first thought was the Tom Scott video that I referred a few episodes ago with the jetpack, where I talked about the exoskeleton that kind of aids so that you to preserve your limbs with the kind of force that is exerted. But they talked about aiding people with paralyzed limbs. And
I think that's incredibly cool.
I found that cool as well.
I'd much rather we did that than used it to give ourselves superhuman strength for military purposes. Although I have heard of recently exoskeletons being used to help people in industry, so lifting heavy things. So instead of having a forklift, you might just have a bloke with a exoskeleton, or you might have someone with a partial exoskeleton that can operate either something very heavy or something you can't necessarily touch,
Yeah.
something very, very cold or something very, very hot.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
But would do you think that become would be more viable, instead of using a robotic arm or something? Just
Um,
like
I don't. I think,
take out the human from that scene where
yeah,
something that is hazardous, or
but something that needs flexible thought and dexterity.
in that location
Yeah,
at that period of time. Yeah, yeah, okay,
yeah.
maybe.
Until we create AIs that actually can think like that,
Mm-hmm.
then I think probably. But then it's a form of transhumanism you can take off, I suppose.
Yeah,
And we are talking about
yeah,
transhumanism yesterday.
yeah.
Um,
And also, it's like similar debate to like the one we had with jetpack, right? Jetpack
yeah,
versus drone.
yeah,
Should human physically be travel or just send a drone? So that kind of a
yeah.
debate.
It
Uh,
it always makes me think of Iron Man when we're talking about exoskeletons
oh, okay. You thought of
and
that. I
transhumanism.
thought of the Batman versus Superman movie in which Batman used an exoskeleton to fight Superman. Because it
Yeah,
gave him to match Superman's strength.
yeah.
He developed an exoskeleton in that movie. Uh, yeah, that's that. So this I feel more have positive vibes towards
Hmm.
this this technology compared to the previous two that we discussed today.
But
Um,
not in the context of the book that Heinlein
oh
viewed
yeah,
us.
yeah, yeah. What was? I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know what was the
Oh
story
well,
about.
Starship Troopers is. I can only go from the film,
Uh
which
huh.
I think
Yeah,
I
I
believe
tried
I
looking it up because
poured
you told
scorn
me
upon
to
yesterday.
watch it. Yeah, yeah. It's not
Uh,
available on Netflix, so I have no idea.
it's there's an alien attack.
Uh huh.
Um, Almost all of the aliens that Heinlein sees are advanced. You never come across a society that's the same as us.
Uh huh.
Um,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
these ones are
yeah.
advanced to the point where they want to take everyone. They want to take over the world. They want our resources,
Mm,
and we fight them. Our soldiers are enhanced in order to fight them. I think chemically,
okay.
but also with exoskeletons, and it's that the
What?
film for me
Hmm, hmm.
falls down in mostly the script. It's a string of tropes strung together with
So
some
the
effect.
enemy is extraterrestrial, or is it like
Yeah,
okay? Because I saw something
an
about
external threat.
giant bugs kind of.
Yeah,
Was it from the same movie? Okay, I saw
yeah,
the visuals in the episode. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. They're giant insectoid aliens.
Ah.
Uh,
Yeah. It's amusing how each author was able to visualize extraterrestrial life in their own. It
yeah,
brings up, yeah, like everybody has their unique imagination, in of
in
something that
terms of what
isn't
they
there.
see. Yeah,
Yeah.
of the other.
Yeah.
Are they like us? Are they not? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like but it's I don't think it's limited to science fiction writers, right? Everybody can, because yeah, you if when you think of an alien, what comes to your mind and what comes to my mind is entirely different.
Mm,
I think every human on earth would have their own different version of how an alien
yeah.
life form would look.
And at different times in their life, they'll have different ideas.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that as well, yes. Because we keep hearing about how uh, if if an alien life form should visit the earth, and how they may or may not be the size of equivalent or of a human. They could be
Hmm.
giant, or they could be the size of a beetle.
Hmm.
uh, Even still being as intelligent or more intelligent than us. uh, so when you hear about such debates, you kind of change your imagination, your
Yeah.
shifts as well. Like, oh, okay, I was thinking the alien would be as tall as me, but maybe not.
Yeah.
Or maybe not having four, instead of four limbs. And then you start imagining, should I
Yeah.
give my alien a tail? Should I make it wear a helmet, and stuff like
Yeah.
that?
Is it corporeal at all? Is it just energy?
Oh, Okay. I hadn't gone there yet. Yeah, that's yes.
Yeah, lots of variety.
Yeah.
Lots
Now
of
I'm remind I that made me think of the Green Lantern movie for some
mm,
reason. Um, the one with Reynolds, uh, who the in which he played Green Lantern before he became Deadpool.
hmm
Yeah. Yeah, that was a funny movie. Uh,
It's got Ryan Reynolds in it. Sort of goes. That's kind of what happens. It's a funny movie.
yeah. Yeah. So okay. So 2 years later, he did according to the at least the episode, he did a 360-degree turn and came up with Stranger in a Strange Land, which
Yes.
but I don't know what it is about. They, in their words, they called it a hippies playbook. So
Yeah.
what was it about? Because I didn't
So
gather anything about prophecy out of it.
it's a. I think I may be incorrect because
Hmm.
I haven't read it, but I've read about it. But I read about it a while ago, so I may be wrong. But I think it's an alien comes to Earth and to learn about us, and in exchange we learn about the alien, and the alien questions what we do as a society, what we do on a personal and a social level. And it essentially
Oh,
what it does is it goes, all right, so we have all of these laws, we have all of these expectations,
yeah.
taboos. Why do they work? Who are they for? And
Mm,
because the stranger in the strange land is like, well, we don't have any of these laws. We make our minds up for ourselves
yeah.
based on value judgments.
Yeah.
Uh, that's why it became sort of the champion of, or not the champion of, something that the hippie movement really looked towards,
Yeah.
because it said, well, you don't need an establishment. We can make moral and value judgments ourselves.
Yeah.
People don't have to be in monogamous relationships. People don't have to have the same genders. It's up to us. And I think, yeah, I think
I
it
mean
deeply
that
irritated
kind of
Robert Heinlein.
appealed more to the younger generation of that time,
It's
of
certainly
the
more
60s.
liberal. Yeah,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
yeah. Which I think was to his profound irritation to start with, because he was very conservative minded. But then he'd written this, and then he was changing the way he thought.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I mean, now that makes sense why they called it a 360-degree turnaround
yeah,
in his style of writing. And also the way how we when we began, we talked about he was like how he was called the modern of the father of social science fiction,
yeah,
and that makes sense. The word keyword
yeah.
social in his
He
science
started
fiction.
questioning how we respond as a society,
Yeah.
and whether what we do as a society is the best way,
Yeah. Yeah.
or can we
Cool.
change? Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Amazing. And yeah, so is it like his narrative, he tells this through the interactions between humans and aliens?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think it's almost the impression I got was it's almost like the way Greek philosophy was taught, where you have a forum where people get, well, not a forum because that's Roman, but the equivalent thereof, where people are discussing ideas and the alien is learning by talking. But
Hmm.
I haven't read it, so
Yeah.
um,
Okay.
I mostly know the concept rather than the reality.
Yeah, I think it's yeah similar to what the episode described as well. But I didn't really get what the prophecy that came out of, because I didn't catch it. Maybe they just wanted to talk about.
Self determinism. It was that was less of a prophecy and more. This is the thing with the problem with them calling it the prophets of science fiction, is he, unlike the others who were an inspiration to things that
Hmm,
were later developed, he
in terms of
literally
technology
changed
and
the
stuff.
way we thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, the hippie movement, or associated movements, were happening, but this gave it some more impetus.
Yeah.
And later, because of who he knew, he had a direct impact on things that
Yeah.
happened. Um,
So it's
So
like
yeah.
the other prophecies, other authors, most of the prophecies of that came true from the works of other authors were in the fields of technology,
Mhm.
while in the case of Heinlein, it's more in public, thought
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
public opinion, and or
Behavior.
behavior as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and how
Yeah.
it modified over the decades.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like the word I think you said, the
Yeah.
liberalization of thought and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's a nice one. I mean, it's nice that a science fiction writer was able to.
Hmm.
Uh, and also, I find it cool. I'm amazed by the 360-degree turnaround that for he went
Yeah.
from a he started, I think. I mean, I don't know what. Of course, we don't know what was going through his mind, but at least in his writing, he was able to question his
Mm.
beliefs, and he was. I think based on that, we can maybe guess that he was beginning to question his own uh,
Mm.
loyal. Not it's not loyalties. Of course, he
He
was a
began.
patriot all his life.
Yes. Yeah, and he was, I think, largely anti-communist the entire time as well. But I think he
Yeah,
began to look at other systems of government and go, "Well, this is just tyranny with a different name."
yeah. I think he
Or
was
this
able to
could very
recognize
easily
that the
come to be.
anti-communism was just propaganda,
Yeah.
and then he was like, should we really think of them as enemies in the first
Yeah.
place and stuff like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Who
nice.
gains? Who gains from that?
Yeah, yeah,
Is the natural next question.
yeah.
Do we? Do we gain from it? If we don't gain from it, why are we doing it?
Mm.
So.
Uh, yeah, but okay. So the next one is 1966.
Mhm.
The moon is a harsh mistress,
Mhm.
in uh, which talked about, at least I think, I don't know the exact the full the summary of the story, but he in his world, in this the world of this novel, man has been uh, able to establish a colony on the moon,
Mhm.
and uses is like how uh, the British Empire used Australia,
Yeah.
is sends outcasts or convicts
Yeah.
to the moon, and the term is, they call them is loonies,
Mhm.
and basically the moon is dry land, or is used as harvest land to
Yeah.
farm food for the people back on earth.
It's an agricultural penal colony.
Okay, didn't know that
Yeah.
term. Can you repeat that?
Agricultural penal colony.
Penal.
Colony.
Okay, okay, got it. Yeah. Uh, I think the Andaman and Nicobar Islands for the British Empire in India
Mm.
was a smaller version of Australia, because even now
So
I
we.
think that there are prison cells on the
Uh,
island, and there are descendants of convicts who are now native to.
mm.
I mean, the Andaman Islands are kind of at a distance from the mainland,
Mhm.
from the Indian, and now it's just a tourist spot
Yeah.
for the people who live on mainland India.
Mhm.
Uh, like that again. This now that somehow I kind of missed the whole the phase where we talked about colonizing the
Mhm.
moon. Was it before our time? Because all of a sudden we are talking about colonizing Mars now. So when did that happen? Was it during the
Yeah.
time that he was writing? Is it like in the
Yeah.
70s and 80s probably?
Yeah. We were definitely talking about it then. I mean, there's still conversations about it now, but I suppose there's, Mars is bigger.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah.
Or now is it like we've moved past the moon, and moon is no longer, we no
It's not the
longer
fashionable one.
as, yeah, that fantasizing, it's no longer, because we kind of know everything that wanted to know about the moon, and we know that the possibility of growing something is
Mm.
not,
It's low.
yeah, I mean, it's not worth the time and the investment
Yeah.
to force that to become a reality. So might as well look for richer
Yeah.
pastures on other, bigger planets. And yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the story reminded me of The Martian, the one in which Matt
Yeah.
Damon gets stranded on Mars, and he is living in the kind of
The dome.
pressurized cabin. Yeah, yeah. Uh, which Heinlein wrote about in Moon is a Harsh Mistress, uh,
Hmm.
where if humans were to colonize an uh, a planet or a satellite or whatever
Hmm.
outside of Earth, how that still remains a question, right? How do we make it? What's the term for uh,
Terraform.
livable?
Yeah. How do we make it survivable
Yes, yeah,
and
because there's no
profitable?
atmosphere, and there's no, of course, a big you can't live 24/7 in a spacesuit. So there needs to be a pressurized tent or whatever, cabin or a home.
Preferably with similar gravity to Earth.
Yes, yeah, gravity, atmosphere, water. There's a lot
Yeah.
of things that we will have to recreate
Yeah.
to, yeah, so that otherwise
Yeah.
it's, yeah, you
And do you rely on a mechanical system, or do
yeah,
you
yeah,
engineer a more biological system?
yeah.
Yeah.
uh, but I think based on how far we have come with the International Space Station,
Mm.
that's like, I think we are halfway there, I would say.
Yeah.
Because what I what's the record now? 6 months, I think.
Yeah.
Almost uh, more than 6 months, I would say. The last I heard was 180 days, which is 6 months, of course. But I think it has exceeded, and there's a bigger longer record now of how
Yeah.
far an astronaut has spent in space. um but I think that I would say we could see in our lifetime,
Yeah.
where you we would, at least th- we are sure about, seeing a human land on Mars in our
Yeah.
lifetime. That's, I think, by now it's a surety, and
Yeah.
um
Assuming several underlying factors like humanity continues
yeah,
and
yeah,
there is funding.
yeah.
Yes.
uh,
Yeah.
but I still feel, and now that we now that that reality is coming, getting closer, I like that our space organizations have, there's renewed interest of sending man to the moon
Yeah.
to kind of do a test run of going to Mars, where
Yeah.
it's like, what's the longest time spent on the moon? It's not much, right? Because
No, it's
the
not much at
Apollo
all.
missions ended in the 70s. uh, it was not much. It was just like, I don't
And
think
most of the time they were
it
traveling.
yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
about a day or a little more than a day
Yeah.
is the max. So I would say our space organizations would kind of focus on try and spend like a little more time, maybe start with a week or so, uh, try and gain, test the technology on the moon first
Mm.
before sending our people far away to Mars.
And the thing is, we'd need a reason because it's a fascinating idea, but we'd need a solid, fundable reason,
Yeah,
like helium mining or looking for minerals or a penal colony.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it needs to be justified. I mean,
It
what
needs
you
to be
cannot.
profitable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, also in the case of with international space laws coming with coming up with, I think there's legislation in place now in the United Nations uh, constitution, or whatever their version of constitution is,
Yeah.
where every space mission has to be argued, and the unit has to be justified, if
Yeah.
especially if you're sending humans.
Yeah.
uh, you need to like provide a proper explanation of why you're sending
Yeah.
out a man in space, in
Why
what,
is this
instead
Why are the
of
risks
a
and the
rover, yeah,
resources?
of a
Yeah.
rover, or a lander, or something like that. uh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the same, right? Risk versus
Yeah.
uh,
Risk and resource versus reward.
yeah, risk versus reward, exactly. um but l- what was that, the one that you, it's dear moon, right?
Mm.
The one that you shared, and I kind of ended up applying, about the first civilian people, civilians. I think the space mission is aiming at, but even that mission won't be landing on the moon, of course. We'll
No.
just be doing a roundabout the moon and coming back, but still it's a start.
It's proof of concept.
Yeah, it's a start
Yeah.
uh, of. So we will be saying, if people who are still not aware of it, in 2023, it's like 2 years from now,
Hmm.
SpaceX and I forget the name of the entrepreneur, the Japanese entrepreneur who is funding this, like a crew of 8 civilians will be
Hmm.
flying from the Earth, going to the moon, going around the moon, and coming back. So it'll be the first civilians. They will be the first civilians to go to space.
Mm.
Um, Very excited
Very
for that.
cool.
Yes.
Very cool.
Yeah. uh, and there's so much new advancements being done with those reusable rockets, especially SpaceX and all this. It's
Yeah.
yeah, exciting times.
Yeah.
And also, almost, I think, even ISRO is started its own private wing called
Hmm.
Antriksh, where they are lending out their rockets to private
Mm.
companies to, you know. And it's nice that not just the governments of countries up until now had this monopoly on space research and space travel. It's a nice public private partnership,
Yeah.
I would say, kind of this balance, and it's very exciting where we are
Yeah.
going. um
It's hopeful.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's I think that was it first time, or the only time he wrote about space, I could find.
Well, you have people coming to Earth, but most of the action is terrestrial.
Yeah, of
It's
like of human,
yeah.
in like I would say Isaac Asimov, or he didn't really talk about humans traveling to space much.
Yeah.
I found he only focused on, like we have talked about, like
Yeah.
human interaction, or
Yeah.
human alien interaction, sorry, on Earth mostly.
Yeah.
So this was again another welcome change to his. And that brings, I think, we are nearing to his later,
Mm.
to his final stage of his career, or his life, where, again, failing health,
Mm.
but he still wrote about, in 1982 he published Friday,
Yes.
in which he talked about the internet addiction, and
Correctly prophesizing.
correctly, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And on a darker theme, he talked about humanities, humans wanting, like, in the lure of freedom of information,
Yeah.
or in the quest for, freedom or free information, or we kind of or basically, the idea of free internet,
Hmm.
of so how much of it is actually really free, you know
Yeah.
I'm not, I don't know, I don't think I'm phrasing
In
that right.
in terms of state control
Yeah,
rather
yeah,
than rather
yeah,
than fiscally.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he talked about that. I mean, how much of the free internet is genuinely
Yeah.
free in like in the quest for uh free to access to the internet. We are How much of data are we giving up?
Yeah.
um and
Which is
that
a question that we
we
have to think about now.
now as well, yeah, more
Yeah.
than ever. So he wrote about this like 40 years ago.
Yeah.
um Before, there was before, I think internet was mostly at this time, in the early 80s, was still more of a government
Hmm.
property.
Yeah.
um, and not many civilians had access to it. So
Yeah. I
it's,
mean, the big boom for getting online was when I was a child, so that would be
yeah,
90s rather than
yes, yeah,
80s.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
With it kind of, I think Microsoft played a big hand
Yeah.
with making public, personal computers more accessible and
Yeah.
more affordable
Well, yeah,
to
because there's
people.
no point having the internet for everyone if no one can do anything with it.
No one had a computer at home, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that Windows 95, right, game changer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So everywhere, yeah, Windows 95 made PCs more accessible, more affordable, and everybody had a computer at home. And then, of course, it made internet easier.
Yeah.
uh,
AOL.
yeah, but
Yeah.
he had the foresight back in the early 80s to see that when eventually internet becomes so common that everybody has access to it,
Hmm.
and the dangers of it, the
Yeah.
possible dangers. And that's, I mean,
I mean, he certainly saw addiction. I don't think he saw the potential that we see today for fraud.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
trolling
yeah.
and so on.
No, 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 of course not.
But
But
yeah.
the deeper question, which is of the free internet, right, which we
Hmm.
still is an open debate even now, of
Yeah.
because at least in the terms of social media and stuff, when we talk about, like, when we are signing up, how, or even Google, right, there's that debate of, like, uh, the search engine, right,
Yeah.
like, all the information is free, that's true, but then it comes at a cost, as
Yeah.
in, and that, I think, is the revenue model of Google as well.
Yeah.
It uses the information that we give it, to by
For
selling it
various
to,
purposes,
yeah,
like
uh
marketing analyticals or
yes, yeah, exactly.
uh, behavior trends and
Yes,
things, which
yeah,
can go towards statistical mapping of behavior on a
yeah,
large scale.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. The most harmless is, part of that is the ads that we see,
Yeah.
based on what we Google, or what we, or let's not blame just Google, what we search, or
Yeah.
what we talk about on our social medias. We see ads based on it, and that's just the harmless part. But then
Yeah.
there are harmful consequences of that as well, like you said, fraud, identity theft, and all that.
Hmm.
um so yeah, that I think is a very uh, serious concern right now.
Yeah.
That just like space law, there is no
It's not an easy answer.
yeah, there's no regulations in
Hmm.
place as of yet. I mean, it's coming up. There has been, I think the European Union has been taking some steps in the right direction,
Hmm.
in terms of, the what's that called?
GDPR.
GDPR, yes, thank you. The terms of,
So someone who had to do the compliancy stuff for her own website. Yep.
yeah, yeah. compliance laws and the thing with storing cookies and stuff like that.
Hmm.
um, so yeah, we are gradually taking steps in the right direction, but it's still a concern. um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think that was the last of his works, but he was still in the 80s, towards the end of his life. He was a member of the Citizens Advisory Council on
Hmm.
National Space Policy. This I'm reading off his Wikipedia page, um, which says that he helped write space policy for the incoming Ronald Reagan administration.
Yeah. It's
Um,
because they wanted the documents to be scientifically accurate, but also readable.
yeah,
Because a lot of academic scientific papers, you just they're so academic writing is designed to be dense sometimes
yeah,
in order to maintain elitism, and
yes,
sometimes because it is just complex.
yeah,
And the gift of science fiction writers like Heinlein is that they could translate that into something that you could understand,
true,
without taking away any of the facts.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so and that on that council were also former astronaut Buzz Aldrin,
Hmm.
and aerospace engineer Max Hunter, and other popular or famous academic, what's the term,
Academics.
academics, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking of academicians, and I don't know why. I It's like magic magicians, maybe that's
Or
the
mathematician. Yeah.
mathematics. Yeah, academics
Yeah.
of the time. um and also he was on the council that that worked on the space shuttle development as well.
Yeah.
um and his policy recommendations were used by Ronald Reagan in his famous Star Wars speech of spring 1983, apparently,
Hmm.
which I do not know. I heard about it today, so I don't know what his Star Wars speech was. I should maybe look it
It's
up later.
it's about satellite defense systems.
Yeah, maybe, I think, yeah.
And I think the quote that you're thinking of is, "Would it not be better to prevent harm than to have to avenge it?"
Yeah. Or also,
Um,
I think it was more of that the result of the space race, I would say.
mhm.
At the end of the space race, when they instead when at the end of the Apollo program, when we were done with the moon, but then the reality of like the missile technology,
Yeah.
or the threat of enemy
Yeah.
enemy satellites doing secret surveillance
Yeah.
on foreign countries or foreign lands, became was more of a threat than conquering the moon, or whatever.
Yeah. More of
So,
a priority.
or a priority, exactly, yeah. So it became a serious concern, and then there was the need for coming up with missile technology to counter or attack these enemy satellites
Hmm.
and such. So that was what the Star Wars that they're referring to, right?
Which is, of course, quite ironic because there's no way we would have gotten into space in the first place without the advances in rocket technology, particularly
Yeah,
on the German side
yeah,
at the
yeah,
end of the Second World War.
yeah. But also, I think, again, reading of his Wikipedia page, he was also asked to appear before a joint committee of the United States Congress the same year in 1983, where he testified that the spin-offs from space technology were benefiting uh, the s- the sick, the poor, and the elderly,
Yeah.
which I think was fair. I think he was. That's, I think, it's well established at this point of how much
Yeah.
the spin-offs have benefited, uh, not just the sick, the poor, and the elderly, but human
Everyone.
society as a whole. Yeah,
Yeah.
even as little as, like packaged food. or
Yeah.
those little those what's that, warm blankets. uh,
Oh, electric blankets.
yeah, those
Yeah.
those heaters, those blankets and stuff like that, which essentially NASA developed for astronauts in space, but then now is more like is so common in
Yeah.
our households now. um yeah, so
Yeah.
he saw that the benefits of that very early, and he talked about it openly. I guess, yeah, that's all I had. I mean, to think of it, until yesterday evening, I did not know anything about Robert Heinlein. Now I have massive respect um,
Yeah.
for not just his prophecies, not just his science fiction, but also I'm very impressed with the way uh, of in which he was able to look inwards and
Mm.
address uh, his prejudices, should I say, or his not ju- not his conservative thinking
Hmm.
around the late 50s and the 60s, and he was able to
I mean, it didn't entirely go away, but he was capable of a certain amount of self-analysis and change.
yeah uh, and based on the time period in which he lived, I think that deserves a shout out,
Yeah.
or so. Yeah, that I was impressed by that. And yeah, closing
Yeah.
thoughts.
Uh he always, in all of his stories, the question he's really addressing is, uh do we think for ourselves?
Hmm.
How do we continue? Is the way that we're thinking for ourselves the best way? Can we
Yeah,
be better?
yeah.
Can we be better without forcing betterness upon people?
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
Okay. And I think he was also he remained a good friend of Arthur C. Clarke. I mean, they were good friends
yeah.
throughout their careers or their lives.
Hmm.
But how much of it? I mean, do you think they? I mean, I'm
You
sure.
think
I
they
mean,
influenced each other?
yeah. That was
Yeah,
my question.
yeah,
Do you
absolutely. I
do you
mean,
see it in their works?
yeah, to an extent. Their voices are very much still their own, but I
Yeah,
can't imagine that it's any different from me and my fellow writer friends going, does this work? Or how would you do this? Or I'm
yeah.
stuck on this detail, can you give me a hand? And yeah,
Do you
yeah.
see that happening? Like, do you think
Well,
they bounce
I haven't
ideas off each other?
I haven't read enough of either person's work
Yeah,
to say that, but I imagine that is definitely a thing, because that's what happens when you have people who are creative
yeah.
communicating, is they inspire one another.
Because when we covered Arthur C. Clarke, we also talked about, I think, how he was able to predict the the internet,
Hmm.
or the ATM, or all these technologies as
Hmm.
well. And even though Heinlein didn't really write much about technology but he talked about the downsides, or the
Yeah.
possible, not dangers, but possible
Misuses.
misuses. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Of said technology.
Yeah.
So it was almost like Arthur C. Clarke coming up with something, and then uh, Heinlein kind of highlighting the dangers of it, in a way,
Well,
I would
yeah, I
say.
think they're both part of the conversation.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
yeah. There was this one video of Arthur C. Clarke, I talked about. I mean, I didn't talk about, sorry, because I watched the video after the fact,
Hmm.
after we covered. And that this is because of, I think, did I share a screenshot of it with you in a private chat, because of the
Yeah,
YouTube
maybe.
algorithm, as in because I watch videos, or I search for content that is relating to this particular author uh,
Hmm.
that we are supposed to discuss on the day. And of course, YouTube does not know that. So it thinks that I'm I'm interested in that particular
Mhm.
author, and then it modifies, until I look up the next author, it keeps recommending content.
Mhm.
So after we recorded the episode on Arthur C Clarke, it showed me a bunch of videos in which he talked about way back in the end, in late 60s, early 70s. There was this one interview in which a father of a young kid, right, he asks about what will he points to his toddler and his young 3-year-old son, and he
Mhm.
talks about how will the world in which my son grows up in would look like. And
Mhm.
Arthur says, I mean, they're standing in a kind of a showroom, it's like a
Yeah.
thing, or I don't know what that
At
is,
an
but there are,
exhibition center or something.
yeah, right. So have you watched the video? Have
No,
you?
I can imagine
Oh,
from
okay,
your
okay.
description.
Yeah. So there's standing, and there are a bunch of screens and stuff in the background, and
Mhm.
so he says that, when this kid grows up, or I think he said, when this kid becomes comes to grows up to my age,
Uh-huh.
he will be living in a world where these he will he will have a screen, or a device like this in his house, which is
Mhm.
basically the modern personal computer or the desktop and the laptop and such. And he'll be able to communicate with other devices in other people's houses through
Mhm.
this, which is the internet, of course, which we call now.
Yeah.
And he'll be able to order stuff
Yep.
using it. He will be able to pay bills. He'll be able to mm, read, access the news. And so it's so not just weird, it's so uh, near mind blowing to
Mm.
how much of, like, he was able to visualize. When
Yeah.
you think about it, it's a, like, everybody should go check it out.
Yeah.
I think it's a late 60s interview of Arthur
It's a
C Clarke.
consideration of the possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because this is before, years before there was anything near, even Macintosh wasn't a reality yet then. So there was,
Mm.
like,
But
the,
we were dreaming of it.
yeah,
As a collective, we were going, let's make something that will let us do this.
yeah.
Yeah.
But to think of the personal computer, to think of the internet, to think of the, like what we do now, of course, we are able to pay bills on our handheld devices,
Yeah.
not just we don't even need the computer anymore. The computer has
Yeah.
become basically a palm, the size of our palm. um, Amazing, right?
It's incredible. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah.
I mean,
It's
considering
so
at the
exciting.
start of the last century, my great grandfather was born 100 in the year of 100 years before me, so it's a different month. But to imagine, to wonder how he would have imagined the year I was born is extraordinary, and what we'll see in our different lifetimes is extraordinary.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that brings us to the end of today's topic of
Mhm.
Robert A. Heinlein's work and life. Tomorrow,
It's George Lucas.
George Lucas. Yes. Tomorrow we're looking forward to talking about George Lucas.
Hmm.
Anything else you want to add, or should we
No, not
close?
really.
Okay. So I guess that's it. Uh, you will find the links to Lauren's social medias and websites and stuff in the description, and mine as well. Uh, Thank you for tuning in. If you're listening to this podcast episode on a later date, or if you're watching, again, thank you for tuning in as well. uh, yeah, wherever you're watching this, on YouTube, on Twitch, or you're listening to us on Google Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to us, thank you. And I guess that's it.
Yeah.
See you tomorrow at
See you tomorrow.
for the Twitch viewers, or the YouTube viewers. See you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Central European,
Hmm.
right? I think we'll be closing early, or it depends. But we'll be
Yeah.
starting at 3 p.m. Central European, 2 p.m. UK, and 1 p.m. UTC.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it. See you tomorrow.
Cool. See you tomorrow.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Ending stream. That was a good one
That was a good one.
today. Yeah. Very